grade to be better. So that's my job in the next several minutes, is to tell you some of the things that teachers really hate to see in writing, and then if you know those, you'll be careful to avoid them, and that's the whole point, okay? So the first thing is this. I want to ask you this from your own personal experience or just a guess. If you got an essay question on a test and then you had room to write on the front and the back or a blue book or anything else, what do you think most students do as soon as they read the essay question? What's the very next thing they do? Yeah, they start writing, which sounds like the right thing to do, but usually that's a huge mistake. They read the question and think, ooh, 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 and then they just, here we go, they start writing. But the problem with that is, unless you're the greatest writer in the world, what ends up usually happening is that you write about something and then you think, okay, that's about it about that. And then you go on to something else, and then halfway through that, oh, you remember something else about the first thing, and your paper starts turning into a mess. I always tell students this, if you're ever with a teacher and you're watching their face while they correct your writing, and you see them, they're on the second page, and you see them do this. Like that, you can just sit there going, there went my grade right down the tubes, because they're looking, thinking, wait a minute, he talked about that over there, and now he's talking about it again, and you're making the teacher work way too hard, okay? So a much better thing to do than this is this. You get the essay question from the teacher and you're ready to go, and before you do anything, before you write any part of your answer, it's a really good idea for you to write a really short outline. And I don't mean Roman numerals and all, nothing complicated like that, but just maybe up in the corner of your paper somewhere, you can just number from like 1 to 3. And then jot down a phrase here and a phrase here and a phrase here. And what are these things that you're writing? Yeah, they're the main ideas, the topics that you want to make sure you include in your answer, okay? If you do that, if you spend like 30 seconds to a minute sort of planning, okay, these are my 3, and I'm going to do that one first, that one second, and then I'm going to finish with that one, then what you did is you took a minute to plan. And you've heard the saying, it's really good to think before you speak. And we'd all be in better shape if we remembered that. It's also good to think before you write. And so you take 1 minute doing this. Everybody else is just writing like crazy. But when you start writing, you write about your first topic, you write about the second one, you write about the third one, and then when you turn it in, even if your writing's not perfect, it's so easy for the teacher to follow. It's like you're guiding them through. And if you were a teacher, and you were correcting a lot of papers, and you had to try to figure one out, I think you'd have the same reaction. So if you just deliver it in a way that's very clear and organized, that really helps. And so just writing a brief outline can help a lot, especially if writing is not your greatest strength. Okay, the other things that I want to share with you over these last few minutes are on this handout, and I'm not going to be able to go through all of this. You can certainly take this with you and read through it a little bit more at a later time. I think there's a lot of good advice on here, but I just want to hit on about 3 or 4 things that I think are maybe the most important on here. The first one, when you look at the top of the page, is it says the most crucial task you have when preparing for and then taking an essay exam is to ask your teacher exactly what he or she wants you to include in your answer and how you're supposed to write it. And this is extremely important because essay tests are subjective, as I mentioned, and each teacher is unique in terms of what he or she wants to see and doesn't want to see on your paper. If every teacher had the exact same